does their work, they've been complaining over time.
So,
Not only them, but let me hold it at that, it is true.
so I put it to you, Minister, it's 2,711 staff members that DPCI, Hawks, is saying they need. Now, when you consider that, and you spend just under 100 million on a temporary unit, when there is a need to fund such a critical division, does it add value to South African SAPS as a whole?
There is a basis of an argument for a decreasing value. You may, as I answered you earlier, that yes, at the time, but as time went on, it clearly unsettles you and makes you a bit uncomfortable. That how you are spending resources may be skewed, and those figures that you are pointing out serves that particular purpose in terms of you looking at your distribution of resources within SAPS, and they increase your concern.
So the concern is increasing now.
Yes, they increase the concern and the need for a more rational kind of use of resources.
All right, let's continue. Minister, when you consider the budget allocation for laundry services alone for 12 months in 2022, for 110 members, it amounted to 4.4 million, just laundry. This translates to a calculated monthly amount per person, just for laundry, per person, 3,367 rand 73 cents. This figure is equivalent to the basic living cost of a normal South African, and that money is used on one member just for laundry. Has this added value to the South African police service in South Africa as a whole?
Yes, you would increasingly find yourself in some corner when, as you calculate the costs of the National Political Killings Task Team over time, and lending to, at a time when I wrote the directive, it was because of that you continue to sit uncomfortably as you consider other factors. And as I say, the issue starts in November, where I say I have these concerns about matters and all of that, but you don't have additional resources from Treasury. So you have to be on your own. And when you put it the way you're putting, you are more and more on the side of lesser and lesser value.
Minister, when you consider that in 2021, 2022, the figures reveals that 43.6, or rather 43.1 million was requested for overtime alone, just overtime. When you calculate that per member, each member gets approximately 392,400 per annum. And that is over and above their normal salaries. Minister, is this adding, and has it added to the value of the South African police service in South Africa as a whole?
Just to
Yes.
just to check, Minister. Honorable Sauls, are not those the questions for the portfolio committee of the police and the accounting officer?
Chair, you can guide me, but I am taking all this information from the evidence that has been submitted to us. So looking at that and the statement that is made, I'm trying to weigh whether there has been value so that we can assess whether there is legitimate reason for disbandment. So that's where I'm going. So unless I'm not supposed to interrogate the evidence.
You are granted, Honorable Member. I just wanted to check that. I think you have clarified it.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, when we consider the cost of disbanding immediately, as you put it in your letter, when we consider that, I had to apply my mind to say, when you consider what would the cost implication be for disbanding immediately and winding down? So when you consider that, it totals 49.5 million. And that's for that 12-month transition. This total transitional cost is equivalent to approximately 50% of the previous year's full operational budget. This is just for the winding down. Now I'm comparing if it had to be immediate and if it has to be winding down. The structure of the remaining staff, when I look at it during the winding down, it shows that there's a priority mismatch. The priorities is not adding up. As of May 2025, the remaining 56 members, they comprise of only 20 detectives, 20. But they were allocated 27 combat members, plus 5 commanders and 2 guards, primarily for security and protection services. Now, I thought the final stage was to consolidate the cases that is still pending. If that's the case, you would then have more detectives because you need to close these cases now. But instead, there is just 20 detectives. So the total number of protective personnel, the security people, there are 29 members. And the detectives responsible for finalizing cases that's still on the court roll are only 20. This suggests that the main focus is not about investigating cases or closing it down. Minister, is this adding value to the South African police service in South Africa as a whole?
I would maintain the response that you would more and more see, as you do calculations and so on, that it actually was becoming, or it has become, quite a costly exercise, which is skewed if you look at your needs countrywide. It gets more and more skewed. It's impossible to avoid that conclusion.
Minister, you are from KZN.
Yes.
In your region,
Yes.
over the past few years, you've mentioned, I think indirectly in your testimony once, that the deaths, you were concerned about the deaths in your area. The increasing deaths in your area. Has the murder rate increased in your area where you live in KZN?
Not at all. What various statistics per quarter show is that murders in KZN are very high, but political killings have decreased as a result of various factors. But the murders general in the province have not shown any decline, and that is exactly what is getting me more and more worried. To say, what are we doing? Are we doing justice for every citizen? Are we ethical in terms of our approach? Are we realistic? Are we realistic in terms of hitting the call that we should overcome the scourge of murders in the country? Because it's not murders of politicians and Izinduna Namakosi. That is a concern, but not them alone. Together with that of citizens general. Murders in KZN are very high, concerning, very, very, very concerning.
Despite this huge investment, who arrested the hitman on AKA?
Can you come
the
back?
Hitman who murdered AKA, who arrested them? Was it the political killings task team, or was it the national task team?
Well, I'm not sure about who, in terms of name and surname and so on, who actually did the arrests, but police would be able to give the exact reports on that matter. I didn't ask any whether it is NIU, whether it is the National Political Killings Task Team or what.
We have it on good record that it was not the PKTT. And yet this high-profile murder happened 5-kilometer radius from where the task team is based. And for months, it has gone unresolved. Minister, we've now gone through all the things that you've put before us that would serve as basis for writing a directive to say that these are the reasons why the political killings task team should be disbanded. You question whether or not it has added value, and we've looked into it retrospectively. But you say you only made the decision based on them no longer adding value. Now, if you discard everything that we've just spoken about, and you say to me that you have not based your decision on those facts, you're now going to have to make me understand the period that you are referring to when you say that you've used to make that decision. So you're talking futuristic. They're no longer adding value. But they did. And if you have not considered what I've put to you, what did you consider then to come to the conclusion that they should be disbanded?
Well, I'm saying if you consider everything that you have been saying, even though I didn't go to that long calculations as you were saying, but generally what was being reflected and what was being observed is that on one hand, political killings are decreasing, the cases are decreasing, but you are funding at the level, and you are bound to conclude that there is something disproportionate here. And then you go out of KZN, you look at nationally, to say you are facing a serious problem all over, including in some other sections like detectives, DPCI, and so on. And therefore, you are bound to review how you use your budget. And that was part of that was a kind of thinking that went into along those lines without necessarily going that deep into the calculations.
Well, Minister, you inspired me to do so because my job is not to choose a side. So after hearing testimony, I then had to, without bias, listen to you and the evidence that you put before. So when you took the position that there is a need for disbandment, that motivated me to, without bias, neutrally look at the facts and then determine, is there some credence, some value in what you are saying? And this is what I found. And what I found is that the evidence shows that when you measure the impact and the value added to South African police service, South Africa as a whole, there is very minimal value, except for high budgets that's not even on investigations, but rather spent on protection, laundry,